Okay, good afternoon. I hope you hadn't had a big lunch, so you're not taking the siesta. We will try this, hey, there we go, try this to make this as easygoing as possible. My colleagues here were trying to make fun out of me. They said, hey, if you screw your presentation, we're gonna be really nice when we do ours. So we're gonna talk about achieving wildness. First, I normally give a brief introduction of who am I, but because I don't have enough time, which I don't see the time, oh, there it is. Normally, we're not gonna have time, so I'm gonna just say that I'm a serial entrepreneur. You can go online and see what I've been doing. I haven't been, actually, I will disagree with Saskia because I haven't been very successful. If I had been successful, I wouldn't be here giving this talk. I would be in the Bahamas with my boat, okay? But we're working on it. Hopefully, we will get there. So today we're gonna talk about achieving wildness. So a lot of people ask me, like, what is wildness? In a lot of the talks I normally give, I speak and I talk about happiness, about achieving happiness, about how being an entrepreneur is about being happy with what you do. But I realize that some people don't know what happiness is. Some people are happy but don't realize that they're happy, okay? So I describe this wildness factor as being, perceiving that you're doing something that makes you happy and being conscious that you're being happy while doing this. But yeah, the problem is, what is happiness, okay? There's massive definitions and descriptions of what happiness is. With a lot of papers and scientific approaches that we talk about happiness, there's like this consensus that, well, being happy is when many positive things happen to you, many things that make you like really like what you're doing, and few negative things happen to you, okay? We can more or less agree with this kind of definition, but we have to understand that every culture is different. In every culture, the things that make us happy are different. The type of work, the social relationships, the traveling, the understanding the world, the reading, the sports, whatever, is different with every culture. That's why defining happiness is extremely hard. It's extremely difficult. But there's something interesting about humans, okay? When you get an animal, there's a very simple and very irrational reaction with animals, which is, hey, when they feel pain, they run away from the pain. And when they find something that gives them pleasure, they will try and repeat that experience. Okay, and someone would think that we humans are smarter than animals. But the reality is that it's quite the opposite. When there's something that's painful, we humans will do it again. And we'll do it over and over and over again. And when we find something that gives us pleasure, we won't repeat that shit. Okay? I don't know why. I don't know why animals actually get this, but we humans do not get this. I don't get it. Well, actually, I get it. And that's the reason why I'm going to explain to you why this happens. The humans have something that differentiates us from animals that is fantastic. We have an extremely powerful part of the brain specifically that's called the neocortex. And one of the many things that the neocortex actually does with us is we have this kind of neural circuits that allow us to create simulations of the future. So our brain allows us to create or recreate pre-experiences and pre-feelings of things that have never happened. So it's demonstrated that if you hurt a specific part of your brain, more precisely the frontal lobe of your brain, you're unable to imagine the future. You're able to simulate what's going to happen with the future. The problem with that is that that same mechanism that allows us to run through our heads, to run through our minds, these future paths, these future decisions we're going to take, it's deeply flawed at the same time. If used correctly, it allows us to predict the future. It allows us to see trends that no one else sees. But if done wrongly, it kind of takes us through a really bad path, which is to overestimate the emotional impact of those decisions within our daily life. So many times you see this specifically with, mainly with emotions, when it comes to taking a decision about, I don't know, should I date this person or should I date this other person? Okay, if we start running this simulation, suddenly our brains start playing tricks with us. And we overestimate the amount of pleasure or happiness we're going to have with someone or the amount of pain we're going to have with someone. And there's a reason why our brain works like that. The first problem we face is that our brain, when we do this kind of simulation in our brain, when we think about the future, about taking decisions in the future, what our brain does is it usually uses memories, past memories, from experiences we've had. But the problem with the brain is that the only memories our brain recovers are the ones that are long-lasting, are the ones that have been imprinted in our brain because of a high impact. That means that the only memories that we normally retrieve when you think about past experiences are the ones that are either extremely good, extremely bad, or very recent. So when someone is thinking about going to work with a big corporation, the first memory that pops into your head is, last time I did this, it was really bad. And maybe that's not the truth, because you had like 4 or 5 different experiences where this wasn't the truth. But your brain only brings up the one that was really, really bad. The same thing happens with the really, really good ones. When we remember, hey, do you remember when we went, this is what my wife actually does this a lot. We go on vacation, and she keeps pushing me to go to these places where you can buy, you know, the bracelet thing, and you can have like drinks and mojitos and all for free. And I keep telling her, last time we did this, it didn't pan out, it didn't work, it was bullshit. And she goes, I know, but it was so fun, so much, it was so cool. We do it again, like stupid animals we are. We repeat the thing, and she comes back to me, she says, like, you were right, this is bullshit. I'm like, I told you, your brain is playing tricks with you, okay? So we're basically using a simulation process where the input for our simulation is flawed because we're using unrepresentative memories, unrepresentative data from our experience. The second thing that happens when we try to simulate things with our brain and with our memory is that we use what we call memory sketches. That is, our brain doesn't bring back the whole memory. It just brings the specific points, specific things about the memory that you remember. And the problem with that is that there are those inessential details, those details within an experience that make all the difference when you're doing a simulation. You know, there are those details that might turn things one way or another one. This is interesting because it's very related to language. There are experiments that demonstrate that depending on the language you use, the language influences the way you see the world. So for example, English speakers, when you read an English text, English is one of those languages that has one of the richest group of movement verbs in the whole world. They have gazillion verbs to describe how you move. I don't know how they actually achieve this, but you go to London, and Ian knows this, and in London you can walk, you can run, you can crawl, you can jump, you can squeeze, you can swim, you can do a lot of movement things. In Spain, you go. Okay, you go and you talk with someone, hey, you went to this place? Yeah, I went there. That's as long as we go. When you go to Spanish, in Spanish we are very, very descriptive about this specific scene. So if you give a specific passage to someone, an English speaker will only describe how he went from point A to point B. But a Spanish speaker won't remember how he got there. The only thing he remembers is what happened in point B. And he will describe you with a lot of detail what was going on in scene B. Okay, so language actually affects a lot in terms of what details we remember when we retrieve this kind of memories. So not only we are using unrepresentative memories, but the ones we are retrieving, they're actually sketches of the real thing. And finally, there's something which is natural, which is when we run simulations in our brain, it's an abbreviation of the real simulation. If our brain did the whole simulation, it would take us a lifetime to take a decision. So our brain runs really fast simulations on what the future could look like. The problem with that is that our brain only focuses on the initial part of the memory. We normally stress out the initial moments of the memory. So what happens when you put all this together is that we start taking decisions in our lives that make us unhappy because we expect an outcome that it will never happen. For example, if I talk about becoming paralytic, imagine you're in a car crash and you break your spine and you become paralytic. The first impression for a lot of people is, oh my God, that's terrible. Right now, everyone here is thinking, it's running through your brain right now. You're running this simulation of what would happen if that happened to me. And your first impression, probably for most of you, is the impact of, oh my God, my life is ruined. So your brain is actually playing with you. Your brain is telling you that the outcome is going to be worse because you're literally focusing on the initial part of that simulation. When you talk with someone that's in a wheelchair, he tells you, hey, it's terrible. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world, but it's not as bad as most people think it is. You know, because with time, we actually adapt. And this is another problem, which is we underestimate adaptation. Imagine you just got a divorce, or your wife dies, or your husband dies. The initial experience is extremely painful, and you think you're going to be unable to keep going. Reality is that human beings adapt extremely fast to these kind of situations. And that means that our brain is, again, playing with us and telling us that you should do this or you should do that based on this other empowered emotions. And that difference between the expected thing and what the real outcome of your experience is what creates happiness or unhappiness. The problem with this kind of simulation is that it actually works. I'm not saying it's flawed. I mean, it's flawed, but it actually works. If you know how to use it, it's a fantastic tool. The problem is that context matters, and it matters a lot. A lot of people think that you think the same things every single time. That's not true. When you're not hungry and you're going to the supermarket and you're buying something, your decisions on what to buy, on what type of food or drinks make you happy at that point are not the same decisions that you take when you're starving and you go to the supermarket. So context is very important when you take decisions. That's why they always say, like, think this through. Talk with your wife. Go sleep it through. You know, you need to take time. You need to control the context. And then there's something fantastic that was discovered many years ago that's called the isolation effect, which is, you know, our brain works in mysterious ways in terms that when you have to take a decision and you have similar things within your range of options that you can take, you have similar things, our brain literally nukes out those similar things, even though they might be extremely good. And you only focus, your brain only focuses and measures the things that are different. And this is bad. Okay, this is bad because we don't take into account the things that are good if they're shared between the different options we have. And this creates a decision-taking process that in most cases creates massive unhappiness. So yes, your brain fucks with you, okay? We have to be clear about this. This is a reality. These are some of the tips I've been gathering from different religions, different perspectives on how to achieve this state of happiness. How can we actually counteract this notion that our brain is trying to play with us? The first one that you need to understand is that there is always a choice. Okay, when I talk with people and they say, I didn't have a choice, that's a lie. You always have a choice. The problem is that most humans take always the easy path. The easy path is to let others take your decisions for you. The hard one is to take the consequences of taking the hard path. But there is always a choice. The only choice that doesn't exist is not taking a choice. The second one, and you see this a lot with big companies, and those of you that have been working with big companies or know big companies will probably realize this or have realized this. This is a Taoist proverb. It's very typical within Buddhism, within Zen, and those kind of religions, which is that the only constant thing in the universe is change. And I know that when I say this, everyone goes like, yeah, we know this, okay. But then what happens is that when something changes in your life, people freak out. And you go like, well, this is normal. This is what happens. Ian was just telling us, yeah, I just came in late because my baby pooed. Well, that's change, okay? You have to adapt. Those are the things that happen. And that's the only constant you're going to see over and over and over again in your life. There's this story about a Buddhist monk. There were two Buddhist monks that were walking towards the monastery. And at one point in the path, it was a senior monk and a junior monk. And at one point, they reach a stream. And in this, next to the stream, there's this gorgeous lady. And I don't know if you know, but according to Buddhism religion, they cannot touch a woman. So the senior monk just grabs the woman, crosses the stream, and drops her on the other side. And they keep walking. And as they go walking towards the monastery, the junior monks start looking at this guy and start staring, and he starts freaking out. And when they reach the door of the monastery several hours later, the junior monk says, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you touched the woman. And the senior monk turns around and he tells him, why are you so upset? I left the lady on the river. You've been carrying the woman all the way until here. And this is the same proverb, and it's well used in the Buddhist religion to talk about this notion that live the present, don't bring your problems, don't try to simulate what the future is going to be about, because most likely you're going to be wrong. One of the things that the studies tell you is be humble, ask for opinions. The opinion of someone that has gone through the experience is around 80% more accurate than any estimate your simulation on your brain can actually give you if you've never gone through that experience. So be humble and ask people. We always talk about the pyramid of needs of Maslow. I'm going to talk about what I call the wildness triangle and the 3 things you need to achieve wildness. First of all is you need emotional balance. You need a partner. That's the essential thing in anyone's lives. The second thing is to talk about the professional balance. You need to do what you really love. And the third thing that a lot of people forget is you need physical balance. You need to do exercise. If you don't have it, you won't be completely free and you won't be completely happy. So these are ways of actually being happy. So are you happy? Yes, keep doing whatever you're doing. Are you happy? No. Do you want to be happy? No, keep doing whatever you're doing. Do you want to be happy? Yes, change something. You can get it quite complex here, okay? So if you're someone that loves to take decisions, you can get it like this. But my friends, smile, be happy. Think about the things that make you happy. Grab them, repeat them. Think about why those things make you happy. And really, be wowastic. Thank you very much.